throw. Got time over the middle. Camarillo's got it. 40.
He might
30.
score.
He may go the distance.
He's got it.
The Bobby Dolphins have
Like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the...
Hey Dolphins, welcome back to another edition of Miami Dolphins FinCast. I am your host, Marco DeGeorge, and once again, I'm joined by Maya Angel.
Hi, guys.
A lot of exciting action for the week. We're going to jump right into it with our week in review.
The week in review.
So Seattle won in the season opener 10-12 against Miami. It was, a heartbreaking loss because obviously we wanted to see Miami take the win. But, there was some good sides to this game that I enjoyed. Like, I saw a lot of defensive production. Like, they did a great job at putting pressure on Russell Wilson, and they did a great job at keeping close, tight coverages so that there weren't any deep balls thrown down the field. And in fact, the only time that the Seattle Seahawks were able to score a touchdown was in the fourth quarter. So even though defense held them off for so long for 4 quarters, it was kind of heartbreaking to see that they couldn't hold it off. Just one more, 15 minutes more, they couldn't hold it off. But besides that point, I think defense played a great game.
Yeah, I thought defense was solid. It was surprisingly solid. I expected the defense to come out and play well, but with a team like Seattle, who has a lot of offensive production, I thought the defensive line really made a statement. I thought Wake looked really good. I thought Mario Williams played a tremendous game, and it really gives me confidence that gaining Mario Williams and losing Olivier Vernon is actually going to work out. Overall, I thought Ndamukong Suh played really well. Jordan Phillips played solid. So across that whole defensive line, they really kept Russell Wilson in check, which allowed the rest of the defense to do their job. And our secondary looked pretty stable as well. Not 100%, but overall solid. They kept the receiving game in check.
Yeah, absolutely. Rashad Jones is not a surprise, but he had a great defensive game. I did notice that Xavier Howard, our rookie cornerback, needs to learn how to keep tight coverage with the wide receivers. He can't let too much separation because if not, the wide receivers are going to catch the ball. But I think that's something that over time, especially in the season, he is a rookie. He still needs to learn. So I think that he just needs to, just do some more training. Surprisingly enough, our linebackers did a really good job at stopping the run and tackling.
Yeah, I noticed that just basic tackling skills got a lot better. And even when, a receiver caught the ball underneath or, a run did get through the line, they were solid in tackling on first contact because that's been a problem. The issue is when a running back or a receiver gets away from the first contact, then they get that extra yards, right? The yards after the catch, the yards beyond the line. And our linebackers really, whatever they've been working on, whatever Gase has been doing, has been working.
Yeah, tackling looked much improved, and they held Seattle actually to a 3.5 yards per carry and kept Wilson from scrambling. So I think that's an amazing improvement, and I think that Vance Joseph definitely had a good game.
He looks very excited on the sidelines. It's good to see that much enthusiasm coming out of that coach because he is setting the tone for that defense. And the defense stepped it up. I'm really impressed with what I saw.
Yeah, definitely. And a big defensive play that happened in the second half was when Jordan Phillips caused a fumble, and this allowed Kiko Alonso to recover the ball. This shifted momentum, and I think that, again, it shows that if you have a good defensive game, you can stop the offense and get your offense on the field so that maybe you can score some points. Now, this is where I think the Dolphins failed in offense. There was little to none offensive production. I mean, we only put up 10 points on the board, and it was just sad.
Yeah, when the defense holds the other team to 12 points, that's a game you need to win. That's a huge victory, holding Seattle to 12 points. And it's sad when the offense can only produce 10 of their own. Now, granted, there was a couple of bright spots. I mean, I want to look on the positive side of this whole thing. The positive side is that we did have some success moving the ball. There was a moment when we got down to the 27-yard line, and Gase decided to go for it at 4th and inches. We didn't make it, and that was a scoring opportunity where we could have put points on the board. However, I like the call of going forward at 4th and inches. The great teams will make that play, and the Dolphins need to learn that. And Gase said I'm not going to back off from being aggressive like that. So I like that approach, even though we didn't make it there. And then another time we got down, and Andrew Franks missed a field goal, a short field goal as well. And again, we did drive the ball down. We did get it down there. So the offense did have some production. We just fell short, on that 4th down play, and we fell short on that kick. Both things that could have, just those 3 points would have given us the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to point out that in the second half, when we were down, we had a really strong drive that drove the ball down the field, and Tannehill had a rushing touchdown that he went right up the middle. So that showed his athleticism, and it also showed, I think, to me, a glimpse, like a little glimpse of a moment where, oh wow, this is the Miami Dolphins team that I like to see. This is the Miami Dolphins team that I want to see win. If we could do that more than one drive in a game, I think that we definitely could win a lot more games in a season than we normally do.
I'm hoping it is a glimpse, and because, yes, I want to see more out of that of Tannehill. And I remember thinking, watching that drive, saying Tannehill has to do something extra now. He has to move the ball down the field. We can't keep doing these bubble screens to the outside. I'm so sick of those plays, and that's what kind of league we're in now, where it's, throw the 1-yard pass. I need to see Tannehill go down the field. It's interesting because I watched the Patriots and I watched Garoppolo, the backup quarterback, throw the ball down the field. And they're successful at it. We still need that in there. And on that final drive, Tannehill did that. And I want to see more of that throughout the entire game, which hopefully we'll see in upcoming games.
Yeah, I would also like to point out that the offensive line looked sturdy and did a great job at protecting Tannehill and giving him the time to make those passes to drive the ball down the field. Where the offensive line failed was in rushing. They couldn't create any pockets. We had barely any yards. Arian Foster had little to no production when it came to rushing the ball down the field. So I think that there's this polarity when it comes to the offensive line. They're doing a great job now at protecting Tannehill, which was not unlike them a couple seasons before, because Tannehill has always been the number 1 sacked quarterback. But now they're changing that and protecting Tannehill. But now they're losing the chance for a big run game. So it's I would like to have a complete, whole offensive line.
In this first game, I wasn't really able to determine what the problem was with the run game. It's real easy to blame the offensive line. I'm not convinced it was all on the offensive line. I think some of it was on play calling. I think some of it was on Arian Foster. I actually wasn't impressed with his style of running. He does a lot of stutter step running. So, but when you're running between the tackles, the goal is to hit that hole and go. And I understand a couple of times he was waiting for the hole to open or waiting for it to develop, but you have to keep moving the ball forward. And so he was very hesitant in a lot of his running. And in the second half, that really showed, and the defense took advantage of that. So I'm not 100% convinced that it's the offensive line's fault in blocking. A lot of it needs to be the running back making those plays and pushing forward. And even if you hit the line and you get a couple extra yards after you hit the line just because of the surge and you get 3 yards out of the play, that's still a successful play. We still got 3 yards. It's still something we're gaining out of the running game. So I need to see more out of Arian Foster and whoever else is going to be running the ball for us.
I noticed that Tannehill did a really good job at picking up the blitz. He was able to read the defense and see exactly what play they were going to do to combat the play that the offense was doing. And he was able to adjust quickly and play the right play that was going to make sure that the defense wasn't going to stop them. Now, Tannehill also had 2 poorly thrown passes, but overall, I think he had a decent game. He threw 186 passing yards. He was 16 for 29, but he did have that rushing touchdown. What really hurts me is that the Miami Dolphins were 3 for 14 on third downs. We only completed 3 third downs out of the 14 that we had. That's so upsetting. That is not good statistics at all.
And a lot of that is going to fall on Tannehill. He has to make the throws. He has to have better poise in the pocket. When the offensive line gives him, a lot of time to throw, he looks great. But so does every quarterback. Every quarterback, if they're not under pressure, looks great. The key in this league is how do you look when you're under pressure? And I was looking at a comparison of some other quarterbacks. I was listening to a comparison on Dak Prescott versus Jimmy Garoppolo, and the whole thing was these were 2 backup quarterbacks and what type of comparison they did. And the one amazing stat that they looked at was that under pressure, Dak Prescott, his accuracy plummeted. So when he had time to throw, he had a very high accuracy rate. When he was under pressure, it dropped. Garoppolo, his accuracy rating did not change depending on whether he was under pressure or not.
That's extremely impressive for a backup quarterback.
Well, it shows that the way they do things in New England, he's not just a backup quarterback, he's a future starter somewhere, just like every other backup quarterback they have. They end up moving on and start somewhere else. But it's because of how they approach the game. Belichick really, it doesn't matter if you're starting, if you're the backup, if everyone is in there and let's be aggressive. He comes in and plays to win. He doesn't play to make sure the other team doesn't score. He doesn't play to be safe. He doesn't do that. He goes in and he says, we're going to play, we're going to be aggressive, and we're going to move the ball down the field, and we're going to play to win. And so everyone on that team has that mentality. Garoppolo came out, and oh my God, they didn't miss a beat. New England is still the team to beat. And when they get Tom Brady back, it's just like every year. I need to see more out of Tannehill with that killer instinct. And until the final drive, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was kind of, while it was such a great drive, it's kind of depressing to think that he only has those killer instincts in those moments. You know what I mean? He needs to have those killer instincts, like you said, from the beginning. The moment he gets out on that field, that's when those killer instincts need to kick in and make him do these amazing plays that scores points, not when they need it the most.
Now, on the to give Tannehill a little more credit than he gets sometimes, there's a lot that gets put into quarterback ratings and things like that. I'm not a big fan of all this rating system because it doesn't tell the whole story. For example, if the pass is completed to Kenny Stills for 70 plus yards and a touchdown, that makes Tannehill look good. The fact that he dropped the pass makes Tannehill look bad. It's a huge swing because all of a sudden he gets 70 plus more yards in his passing plus a touchdown. So his rating all of a sudden goes way up because of that. So a lot of these numbers and people getting down on things like that, there were a few drop balls. And I hate to see those, especially the one to Stills. Cameron dropped another one. It's like, come on. Those are the things we need to eliminate. The simple things. We eliminated the tackling issues. Hopefully we can still continue to tackle moving forward. That's a big one. We need to, on offense, catch the ball. Please. All right, let's move on to our Fins Up and Fins Down.
Fins Up, Fins Down.
All right, Maya, who's your Fins Up for the week?
My Fins Up is our safety, Abdul Kadudis. He was somebody who I thought was very quiet in the preseason, but obviously not to the Miami Dolphins because they did name him starter. I thought that he had an amazing defensive game. I think he played just amazing. He had an interception in the first half, and that 9-yard return helped set up Andrew Franks for a 41-yard field goal. because of that interception, the Miami Dolphins were able to tie the game early in the second quarter. There was one time for Seattle, they had a 4th and inches, and he was the one that made a strong stop to make sure that they didn't get those few inches to get that first down. And he also made 3 solo tackles. I mean, I was very impressed in the safety because, again, Miami Dolphins defensive backs, we've always had this problem. And with Rashad Jones on the other side, I've never really worried too much about the safety position. But now that we have Abdul Kadudis and the amazing performance that he had in the season opener, I'm actually quite confident in that position. I don't have any concerns. So I'm very happy with the way that he played. I think he had a lot to do with why Seattle couldn't score as much as they could.
My fins up for the week goes to Mario Williams. You know, there's a big question mark surrounding Williams coming into this game and coming into this season. And, you know, the question was, were we going to have a huge drop off now that we lost Olivier Vernon? And what Williams showed is that, wow, he came here to play, and he had a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of power, and he was constantly giving Russell Wilson something to be worried about. And it was great to see, because with that push on that one side, I mean, you know, the defensive line is a key to this season, and Mario Williams is a big part of that. And if he can continue with that output, the defensive line is going to have a lot of success. All right, Maya, who's your fins down for the week?
My fins down is Kenny Stills. Now, this is extremely obvious. He had that dropped 71-yard, wide open, deep pass that would have been a touchdown. The fact that he dropped this ball, I think, has a lot to do with why Miami lost the game. We would have had 10 points in the first half. And then in the second half, when we scored the other touchdown, we would have had 7. So that would have been 17 instead of 10. We lost those 7 points, and it was so dumb, the reason why we lost him, because he was wide open. There is no reason why a professional receiver in the NFL should drop a pass like the pass that he was given. After that, Kenny Stills only caught 1 out of the 5 passes that was thrown to him. So it's like he had no offensive production. He played a poor game, which is very upsetting to me because, you know, here he was and he was in the preseason, and I know, albeit it was the preseason, but he was actually showing production, and he was showing that he was in sync and had this wonderful, stable, and strong relationship with Tannehill while catching the ball, and he was pretty much like our star receiver. And now here he is in the season opener, and we're all like, yeah, Kenny Stills, you know, he's going to score some touchdowns for us. What does he do? He drops a 70-yard touchdown pass. This is why he's my fins down.
My fins down for the week goes to kicker Andrew Franks. He missed a short 27-yard field goal. And, you know, I understand that Laramie Tunsil missed a block, and so, you know, he allowed the defender to get on the inside, which allowed for the hand to go up and block the ball. However, this was a critical moment, and when you're kicking the ball from that shallow of a distance, you have to kick it at a higher angle. I mean, this is just basics 101 for kicking, and, you know, obviously he knows this, and the coaches know this, but it wasn't executed. You know, so it falls on execution. This is so important. These are another 3 points that were taken off the board or not put on the board simply because of poor execution. 3 points that could have won this game for us. We lost by 2. So we need the kicking game to be solid. Our offense as a whole is not a solid offense. There's a lot of holes in it. While I feel we can move the ball down the field, we're not always going to have success getting it in the end zone. So our kicking game is going to be vital for putting points on the board, and Andrew Franks needs to step up his game. All right, let's move on to latest news.
Latest news.
Yeah, we have some injuries I want to take a look at. Mario Williams left the game with a concussion. He's on concussion protocol this week, so his status is unknown going into New England. Obviously, depending on what the doctors clear him as, he may play this week or he may have to sit out a week or two. So we're still waiting at the time of this podcast to hear the results of that. But we need Mario Williams. You know, again, he was my fins up. We need him in the lineup.
Absolutely.
Devontae Parker is back at practice, and that is a good sign. Now, my question is, can he stay healthy? I don't know, but we need him on this team because we need that extra production at receiver. So hopefully he's going to be available to play against New England. Defensive tackle Earl Mitchell, we put him on injured reserve this week. Now, this means that it's not a season-ending injured reserve. The way they designated him, he's eligible to return later this season, but we do lose him for several games, and that's a big blow. We've had, with Mario Williams out, Earl Mitchell, Jordan Phillips had an injury. Fide had an injury. So, we have all these people that are kind of banged up on that defensive line. We need them to get healthy. Because of that, the Dolphins re-signed defensive tackle Chris Jones, who we recently cut before the season. And it's good to have Jones back. He was actually second in the depth chart. It was a bit of a surprise when he got cut. So we're bringing him back on to bolster that defensive line, and he should be able to fit right back in and hopefully contribute right away. To make room for Chris Jones, the Dolphins released quarterback Brandon Doughty. And this isn't a completely surprising move. I mean, they like Doughty, their 7th-round draft pick. He played really well. But the truth is you don't need 3 active quarterbacks on the roster. So what they're hopeful is that Brandon Doughty will clear waivers and they'll bring him back onto the practice squad. He should do that. And that's what I'm hoping is going to happen because I really like him for potential for the future. And if that happens, then everything will go on as normal. And then one additional move that we made this week, when we put Earl Mitchell on IR, it opened up a roster spot. And with that spot, they brought in linebacker Donald Butler. He played the last 4 seasons with San Diego. He started his career and was a really solid linebacker. His play dropped off tremendously last year, which led San Diego to release him. So we brought him in and signed him, and hopefully he'll give some added depth to the linebacker position. All right, well, let's now take a look at our keys to the upcoming game against New England.
Keys to the game.
Maya, what's your first key?
My first key would be strong offensive production in the wide receivers. I'm hoping Devontae Parker can play in this game, and I'm hoping that Kenny Stills, and not just wide receivers, all receivers, I'm hoping that Kenny Stills and Jordan Cameron can shake off this, not being able to catch the ball issue that they're having and actually score and put points on the board. This is going to be extremely important when we're playing the Patriots because this is a team that scores points. This is a team that always has points on the board. They never have a little bit. So in order for Miami to even have a chance of beating this prestigious team, we're going to have to put points on the board. And I'm not too confident in the fact that we can do that because of the open seasoner game that I just saw where we didn't have any offensive production. So we need to make sure that we have offensive production, it's strong, and that we put points on the board because that is one of the only ways we're going to beat the Patriots.
My first key is our kicking game. As I was saying earlier, I believe we're going to be able to move the ball with a little bit of success. However, just as you were saying, Maya, putting the ball in the end zone may not be as easy as we're hoping. And, while we need points, I think a lot of our points this week will come from the kicking game. We need, Andrew Franks needs to be ready to go. Anytime we have a chance at a field goal, we need those 3 points. In addition, we need a strong game out of Matt Darr. Now, Matt Darr is one of my favorite players. I love watching him play, but this is an incredibly important game of field position. We can't allow New England to have a short field to drive down because they will drive. Now, I think our defense will have some success, but we still need to give them a longer field. So both Matt Darr, Andrew Franks needs to have a strong game this week. All right, Maya, what's your second key?
My second key to the game would be the play of the linebackers. I saw that their play improved, that their tackling got so much better. They held the Seahawks to 3.5 yards. So we need to make sure that this is consistent with the Patriots game. We need to make sure that our linebackers are tackling and stopping plays from the Patriots, because if not, they're going to score points. So again, not only do we need our offense to score, we need our defense to hold the Patriots. And this is going to be extremely difficult. It's not an easy feat. But if we can stay consistent with our tackling, I think that it'll be possible.
My second key is going to be the play of the defensive line. We have to put pressure on Garoppolo. This is vital, and this is the key to the game. If we don't put pressure on him, they will move the ball at ease. They will not have an issue. So that defensive line, whoever's in there, and again, we lost Earl Mitchell, Jordan Phillips is banged up. I mean, we have a lot of these. Mario Williams is questionable. So our depth now has to come in and really provide that. Hopefully not a drop off. We have Chris Jones back. Branch needs to step up. So we need these players to come in and put that same pressure on Garoppolo. Hopefully, force him into throwing it early or taking a sack or even throwing it away. But that's going to be the key to this entire success against New England. All right, let's move on to Around the NFL.
Around the NFL.
DeAngelo Williams, the running back for the Steelers, was named Week 1 AFC Offensive Player. Now, he is an amazing veteran running back. He had 146 yards for 26 carries. That was just him. 146 yards. I mean, that is an amazing, strong rushing game. And he also had a touchdown. Now, I'm almost kind of jealous because I wish Arian Foster was putting up statistics like that. But, hey, go DeAngelo Williams. You had a great game. Steven Gostkowski, the kicker for the Patriots, he also earned Week 1 special teams notoriety. All of his 3 field goal attempts were good. His 2 extra points were good. He basically helped win the game, because with, like you were saying, the kicking game is so important because, yes, a lot of teams put points on the board through their kicker. And the fact that Steven Gostkowski was able to put up those 3 field goals and make sure that every extra point was good made sure that the Patriots stayed on top of their opponent, the Cardinals. So he won. He got some notoriety for that. Now, Elliot Harrison, an NFL analyst, put up the power ranking. He does this every week, and he ranks which teams are the best to the worst, basically number 1 being the best, number 32 being the worst. Now, it's kind of interesting, but again, it's no surprise after watching the play. The Patriots were named number 1. This isn't what really everybody was expecting, or I guess what everybody was hoping for after Brady went down, but dang, Jimmy Garoppolo, he just looked good. He had 264 yards and a touchdown. And it was interesting because, again, like you were saying, he was great under pressure. He looked very poised. And New England was basically able to control that entire game, which is why they won. So, and fun fact, Dolphins were ranked number 20. This is mostly because our offensive production. Now, Elliot Harrison did want to point out that defense had a good game, that it was just unlucky and heartbreaking that they couldn't keep going and hold the Seattle Seahawks in the last quarter, but he did want to point out that defense had a very strong game.
And hopefully we'll have another one coming up. Something else interesting that happened, RG3 started for the Browns, his new team, his new resurgence in his career. He went out with a shoulder injury, and he's now going to be out for approximately 8 weeks. There's also, yeah, exactly. But there's also talk that already, after his first week, his teammates are losing confidence in him, and they may not want him to be the starter when he comes back. It's amazing. The drama that surrounds RG3 and the Browns. I mean, of course, this is happening to the Browns again. These the poor fans over there. Anytime Dolphin fans that you're really, feeling down about what's happening with your team, just think it could always be worse. You could be a Browns fan. So
it's just absolutely terrible. I mean, hey, if I was playing for the Browns and RG3 was my quarterback, I would be pretty scared too.
So it's going to be interesting to see now what happens when he's healthy, if they decide to put him back in or not. Because if your players don't have confidence in you, it just doesn't work. Especially in the quarterback position, your surrounding team needs to believe in what you can do. And he just did not play well in his first game. A couple of other things, we've addressed it already a little bit, but Garoppolo played amazingly in New England, and it looks like there's not much of a drop-off. And, obviously Tom Brady is the starter. Of course, there's going to be some talk here and there of what happens when Tom Brady comes back. Everyone can settle down. Tom Brady's the starter. However, it's great for them. All of a sudden they bring in their backup and they're still firing on all cylinders. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over all of the 4 games. How does Garoppolo play, not just on one game, but over a period of time? And we'll see what that means for New England. And then Dak Prescott got his first start for Dallas. And there's a lot of hype around Dak Prescott coming in because of how well he played in the preseason. And what this shows is that there's a huge difference between the preseason and the regular season. Because all of a sudden, while he still looked decent for Dallas, it was interesting to see that when he had a lot more pressure on him, his accuracy dropped way off. So, what's happening in Dallas, and this is going to be an interesting thing. They kept Romo on the active roster for a reason. And, the coaches must really understand that Dak may not be fully ready to be the starter yet. So we're going to have to keep a look at what happens in Dallas. And I think they need Romo back.
And what a heartbreaking loss for Dallas fans. Terrence Williams, who couldn't get out of bounds in those last 5 seconds of the game. Such a heartbreaking loss. I am so sorry.
So many games come down to simple fundamentals, and it's real simple. In that moment, you catch the ball, you get out of bounds. And I know he said in an interview later that he thought he had the angle to get a few more yards and get out of bounds. And while that's great, get out of bounds. So that was heartbreaking.
Especially when they had only 5 seconds left. How much more yards can you get?
Exactly. And still surrounding the NFL is this controversy on the national anthem, where we have certain players on certain teams choosing to sit out or kneel during the national anthem. Now, it was the interesting thing this week was Seattle chose to interlock arms and stand together as one united team. The Dolphins did not, and rather had 4 players kneeling. And it was visually, when you're watching that, you're watching on one side a team that looks united and they're standing together and they're connected with each other versus one team that feels very scattered. And I don't know if the psychology of that translates, but on the field, it felt that way too. And in the end of the game, the team that was united came together, did what they needed to do, and won that game. And so I think there is a psychological side effect to this of a distraction. Kenny Stills was one of those players. So, there's a question, is he so distracted by what's happening and all of this other attention to this national media that it's affecting his on-the-field play? Arian Foster was one of those. And he looked scattered and hesitant on the field as a running back. So is it translating? Is it getting in the way, and is it starting to become a distraction? And that's going to be interesting to see in the upcoming games.
Now, on the opposite side of that, San Francisco, the team that started it all, won 28-0 against the Rams. So there is 2 sides of this.
Well, it wasn't that San Fran started it. It was that Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback that's sitting on the bench, started it. If Kaepernick was playing, I think this would be a whole different issue. It's again, the question is, does it affect your play? Kaepernick has the luxury right now of earning all of his money while sitting on the bench. So he has that ability to do these protests and do these other things. It's not a distraction to him, and we're going to have to see if it's a distraction. I mean, they were playing the Rams, who looked absolutely horrible. I don't think, the Rams could have beaten, University of Central Florida in this game.
Hey, now.
And I'm just saying, I underestimated how bad the Rams are. The Rams, the Browns, they're both dismal teams this year. So, it wasn't a really big test for San Francisco, and it made San Francisco. Chris Berman's calling the game, and he's trying to convince us how great of a team San Francisco is going to be this year. San Francisco's a bad team. They're going to be a bad team. They were playing just a team that was a lot worse. That's what happened in that game. All right, well, now we're going to go on to our picks of the week.
Picks of the week.
Well, our picks last week weren't that good.
Hey, now.
So yeah, well, we're gonna have to see if we can improve on the season. But our season record for last week over 1 week, Maya, you are 7 wins, 9 losses, and I am 6-10. So you have one better than me, but we're gonna keep track of it over the entire season, and we're gonna see what our season record is. So let's take a look at this week's games.
Jets at Bills.
I'm going to go with the Jets on this one. They, when playing this game, they score more points than the Bills do. When the Jets play the Bills, the Jets score more points, so I'm going to take the Jets on this one.
I'm going to go with Buffalo simply because this is a pick'em game. They're equal teams, and it's being played at Buffalo, so I'm going to go ahead and give that advantage to the home team.
Titans at Lions.
I'm going to pick Detroit on this one. Tennessee didn't look that great. Detroit did. It's going to go with Detroit.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the home team as well on this one and go with Detroit.
Chiefs at Texans.
I'm going to go with, this one's interesting. I'll do Kansas City on this one. Yeah, I'll go with Kansas City.
I'm going to go with Houston. Again, I'm going with the home team, but Houston had a very strong outing. Lamar Miller had over 100 yards rushing, and I think they're going to continue that trend. And, I'm going with Houston.
Ravens at Browns.
So I'm going to go with the Browns on this one. I'm going to pick the underdog. Typically when they play each other, the Browns have a better defensive game, so I'm just going to go with the Browns.
I'm going with Baltimore. The Browns look horrible, and they just lost RG3 as their quarterback. And it was interesting. For as bad as he was, they kept him in the game, so I don't even know what the next quarterback's going to look like. Baltimore is always tough defensively. They're going to go into Cleveland and take this one.
Bengals at Steelers.
This one is definitely interesting. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers on this one.
I'm going to go with Cincinnati, and here's why. Pittsburgh just had a real high, emotional win this past week. And the Bengals coming into Pittsburgh always play them tough, especially in the beginning of the season. And so I think Pittsburgh's going to have a letdown game this week, and Cincinnati's going to take it.
Cowboys at Redskins.
I think I'm going to go with Dallas again. I think that now that Dak Prescott has gotten used to playing in the regular season, I think it's only going to go up from here. And I don't think that the Redskins are going to do as great as a job as the Giants did at stopping Dez Bryant. So I definitely think that Dallas will have more production. Therefore, they will have the win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dallas as well. I think Garrett will make some good adjustments, and Dak in his second game will be more comfortable, and so and Ezekiel Elliott too. I think is going. Hopefully, will run the ball better. So I'm going to go with Dallas.
Saints at Giants.
So this one's interesting because the Saints, especially Drew Brees, had an amazing game last week at week 1 in the season opener. And on the other hand, you have the Giants who won against Dallas, but it wasn't really like a huge, oh my gosh, win. So I'm going to go with Drew Brees on this one. I'm going to go with the Saints.
I'm going to go with the Saints as well. I think that Drew Brees is going to come back. He's going to need a victory after what just happened with the Raiders. And he's going to come back on fire again, and they're going to make a statement at the Giants.
49ers at Panthers.
There's no doubt in my mind that Carolina is going to win this game. Again, the 49ers are a messy team. Carolina, even though they lost against the Broncos, they're still a very strong, hard team to beat. So Carolina is going to take the win.
Absolutely. Carolina is going to treat this like an exhibition game, and they're going to wipe the floor with San Francisco. It's at Carolina. They're going to make a statement with this game.
Yeah, especially after that Broncos loss.
Buccaneers at Cardinals.
I'm going to go with Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on this one. I think that they had a really successful game against the Atlanta Falcons, and I think that will progress through into playing the Cardinals. You know, Jameis Winston, he's a young, very strong, very passionate quarterback. I think that Tampa Bay will beat out the Cardinals.
I'm going to go with Arizona on this one. I think Arizona at home, they're just too strong of a team, and they're going to win.
Seahawks at Rams.
Rams looked atrocious last week. There's no doubt in my mind that Seattle is going to take this and pick them absolutely apart.
The Rams look absolutely horrible, and I don't see them making that big of a rebound. Seattle's going to build on the victory they just had, and they are absolutely going to defeat the Rams.
Colts at Broncos.
I think the Broncos are going to stay strong with their win. You know that this was a Super Bowl team. They don't look like they've downgraded at all. I don't think that Andrew Luck and the Colts are strong enough to beat the Broncos.
Yeah, there's too many holes on Indy right now, and they're still struggling to figure out who they are again. Denver's their defense is way too strong for this. Denver will take it at home.
Falcons at Raiders.
I'm going to pick with Atlanta on this one. Even though Oakland beat out, they won their last game, I think that the Falcons will take this. I think that they'll come back from the loss that they just had, and that they'll take the win on this game.
For as many points as Oakland put up, and for winning that game, the one thing it showed was that their defense is not that strong. Atlanta's going to take advantage of that, and they're going to go into Oakland and win that game.
Jaguars at Chargers.
I'm going to take Jacksonville on this one. I just don't have the confidence that the San Diego Chargers are going to win.
I agree. Jacksonville lost their last game against Green Bay, in the final minutes, and they're a good team. They really are a good team. They just ended up playing, a stronger team in Green Bay, but they battled them all the way to the end. They're going to need to come back and bounce back from that, and they're going to do that at San Diego. Jacksonville wins.
Packers at Vikings.
This is an amazing and interesting divisional match that we have here. They're both 1-1. I'm going to go with Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to pull this off again, just like he did in the playoffs.
Look at that. We agree again. I'm going to go with Green Bay as well. While Minnesota, I think, is going to have success this year, Green Bay is just going to be too strong for them. Green Bay is going to go into Minnesota and take this game.
Eagles at Bears.
While I don't like seeing Philly win that much, I think that Philly will win this Chicago game. Philly's just doing really good right now. They're going to take the win.
I'm going to take Chicago on this one. I think they're going to play really well at home and really come back and make a statement against Philly.
Dolphins at Patriots.
And starting this week, we're also going to pick the Miami game. We didn't do it last week on the podcast, even though we both selected it privately off, and it's included in our stats. But we're going to go ahead and tell you what we're thinking on Miami at New England.
Oh, this hurts. I'm going to pick the Miami Dolphins. Now, it's a very slight chance that they're going to win, but if they can come together and exploit these amazing things that the Patriots have, I think that they can come out with a win. Anything and everything is possible. Maybe Garoppolo will have a bad game coming off his amazing win. So I'm going to be hopeful and say that the Miami Dolphins take the win.
I'm going to go ahead and pick the Dolphins as well. I think I am hopeful. I think I'm still on this Adam Gase is going to make some great changes bandwagon. But Miami does historically play New England tough, especially earlier in the season. They just match up well against New England. And it's going to be real interesting with Adam Gase, going against Bill Belichick and kind of the strategic matchup. I think we match up with New England pretty well, and I think our defense can hold Garoppolo in check. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20-17, but I'm going to go with Miami to take this one.
Final thoughts.
All right, Dolphin fans, that concludes this week's podcast for the Miami Dolphins FinCast. As always, if you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Twitter. We are at Dolphin FinCast. That's FINCAST. Or you can go to our website at dolphinpodcast.com. You can listen to us on iTunes, Android, RSS. We're on SoundCloud, YouTube. We are all over. You can find all of those links on our website, and we also promote it on our Twitter as well. We're on Facebook as well. You just have to search for Miami Dolphins FinCast, and you can like our page there as well. If you have any questions, please let us know. Reach out to us. We'd love to answer your questions and interact with you. And until then, we will see you next week. And here's to an amazing game against New England.
Bye, Dolphins fans. I hope you have a great week.